of Hastings, fought on October 14th, 1066, was one of the most significant and transformative battles in English history. It marked the end of Anglo-Saxon rule in England and the beginning of Norman domination under William the Conqueror. The consequences of this battle shaped the future of England in profound and lasting ways, socially, politically, linguistically, and culturally. But to fully understand the importance of the battle, we must first look at what led up to it. The death of Edward the Confessor. The events that led to the Battle of Hastings began with the death of Edward the Confessor, King of England, on January 5th, 1066. Edward had ruled England since 1042 and died without an heir, leaving the English throne open to multiple claimants. Edward was a deeply religious man and had spent many years in exile in Normandy before becoming king. This connection to Normandy would later play a crucial role in shaping events. With no direct heir, a power struggle ensued, and three main contenders emerged for the throne of England. Harold Godwinson, the most powerful English noble and Earl of Wessex. He claimed that Edward had named him successor on his deathbed and was quickly crowned King Harold II of England. William, Duke of Normandy. A distant relative of Edward, William claimed that Edward had promised him the throne years earlier, and that Harold had even sworn to support his claim during a visit to Normandy. Harold Hardrada, King of Norway, backed by Harold's exiled brother Tostig. Hardrada also claimed the English crown, believing it was his by a previous agreement between earlier Viking rulers of England and Scandinavia. The invasions begin. The year 1066 saw England under siege from multiple fronts. In September, Harald Hardrada landed in the north of England with a powerful Norwegian army. Harold Godwinson marched his army rapidly northward and defeated the invaders at the Battle of Stamford Bridge on September the 25th, 1066. Both Harold Hardrada and Tostig were killed in the battle, and the Viking threat was eliminated. However, even as Harold was celebrating his victory, news arrived that William of Normandy had landed on the southern coast of England, near Pevensey, on September the 28th. Harold now had to force march his weary army south, covering over 250 miles in just over 2 weeks. Preparing for battle, William had prepared for his invasion with great care. With the backing of the Pope and an assembled fleet of over 700 ships, he landed unopposed and began building fortifications. He brought with him a combined force of Normans, Flemings, and Bretons, experienced soldiers, many of whom were professional knights. Harold, meanwhile, rushed south with his army, hoping to catch William off guard. He chose to defend from a ridge near the town of Hastings, at a site now known as Senlac Hill. His forces consisted largely of infantry, with elite housecarls, his personal troops, and the Fyrd, a militia made up of farmers and local men who had been hastily summoned. The Battle of Hastings. On the morning of October the 14th, 1066, the two armies met. Harold's army formed a strong defensive position on the ridge, using a shield wall, a formation of overlapping shields that created a nearly impenetrable front. William's forces attacked from below, attempting to break through the wall with cavalry and archers. The Normans found it difficult to penetrate Harold's defensive line, and at several points they retreated down the hill in disarray. One of these retreats, possibly a feigned tactic, led to English troops breaking formation to pursue the Normans, only to be cut down by a cavalry counterattack. This turning point in the battle allowed William to exploit gaps in the English line. By the afternoon, the Norman army had regrouped and launched another series of attacks. Late in the day, a pivotal moment occurred. King Harold was killed, possibly by an arrow to the eye, though this is debated. His death led to the collapse of English resistance. By nightfall, the battlefield was littered with the bodies of thousands of English soldiers. The Normans had won, and William claimed the English throne. Aftermath and consequences. William's victory at Hastings didn't mean he instantly controlled England. He still had to subdue resistance across the kingdom, including in London, where he was eventually crowned King of England on Christmas Day, 1066, at Westminster Abbey. The Norman conquest, as it became known, changed England forever. Here are just a few of the long-term consequences. 1. Political changes. William replaced the Anglo-Saxon nobility with Norman barons loyal to him. English land was redistributed to his followers, and the feudal system was introduced. This centralized power under the king in a way not seen before. 2nd, language and culture. The Norman French spoken by William and his court became the language of the elite. Over time, English absorbed thousands of French words, particularly in law, government, and the arts. This linguistic blending gave rise to Middle English, a precursor to the modern English we speak today. 3. Architecture and castles. The Normans began building castles, most famously the Tower of London, as a means of asserting control over the local population. These stone fortresses were unlike anything previously seen in England, and became symbols of Norman authority. 4th, legal and administrative changes. William ordered a great survey of his new kingdom, which became the Domesday Book in 1086. This detailed record of land holdings, resources, and population was a remarkable administrative achievement and shows how deeply the Normans influenced governance. 5. The end of the Anglo-Saxon era. The death of Harold and the defeat of the English nobility meant the end of Anglo-Saxon England. Although the culture survived in some ways, particularly in the countryside and in religious practices, the ruling class and many institutions were reshaped under Norman rule. Legacy of the Battle of Hastings. The Battle of Hastings is remembered today as a turning point in English history. It was more than just a battle between two armies. It was a clash of cultures, systems of government, and historical trajectories. The changes it initiated would define the medieval history of England and affect everything from language to law. The Bayeux Tapestry, an embroidered cloth nearly 70 meters long, provides a vivid visual account of the events leading up to and including the battle. Thought to have been commissioned shortly after the conquest, it is one of the most famous historical artifacts from the period. Conclusion. The Battle of Hastings stands out as one of the most important battles in medieval Europe. It not only determined who would rule England, but also laid the foundations for the development of the modern British state. The outcome of a single day, October 14th, 1066, reshaped a nation for centuries to come. From political upheaval to linguistic evolution, and from military tactics to administrative reforms, the legacy of Hastings still echoes in the institutions, laws, and culture of England today. It was, in every sense, a battle that changed history